back, everybody!
Hello, my fellow nihilistic doomers who can't stop telling people the sun is gonna explode.
POV.
You're a filthy hacker who was able to bypass the 45-step verification process and gain access to the SCP database just because you heard there was a smoking hot nun in there somewhere. Chances are you completely forgot about the smoking hot nun once you clicked on a random link and were greeted with this crazy catalog of logic-defying entities somehow still hidden from the public view despite containing thousands upon thousands of different life-threatening figures, such as a mucus geezer whose containment procedures include breaking a 20-year-old's leg and listening to him scream in agony. Wait, why did I just plug that dumb frickin' video? Anyway, you learned that there was a multiverse, you learned how amnestics work, you learned that the number of D-class killed for experimental purposes is probably about 1,000 times larger than the total number of death row inmates in the world, etc. You may or may not have had a Yosemite Falls mental breakdown a few times scrolling through this massive accumulation of horror and cruelty until you got to this particular documentation and orgasm because this somehow proves that there's an afterlife. However, after going through a large portion of this list, one particular anomalous entity stands out among the rest. And why would that be? Because it reminds you of that Lovecraft guy that invented Cthulhu and named his cat the N-word? No, I'm not talking about that one. I'm not talking about that one either.
What the shit? That's not even an SCP.
I'm talking about SCP-231, the Scarlet King. Who is this Scarlet King, you must be wondering as you sit at the edge of your seat moaning like a Minecraft cow? He must be the big motherfucking business, eh? So you decide to do some research on this fool and figure out his stuff. The 231 documentation doesn't go into a lot of detail in regards to the actual Scarlet King, but it does go into a lot of detail in regards to the personnel requirements, SCP-231-1 through 7, and the containment procedures. Fun fact, I have no idea how to organize this part of the video, not to mention trigger warning. The first thing you're greeted with upon clicking into the page is a bunch of personnel requirements, which include the following. Undergo heavy psychological testing. Don't know where the hell you are. Be incredibly frickin' obedient. Don't have a wife. Don't have any children. Be incredibly frickin' obedient. Don't express any form of sympathy for the subject being tested on. Don't tell anybody about this task whatsoever.
Be incredibly frickin' obedient.
Don't have a background in violent crime. Still be a criminal. Wear a concealed helmet with an integrated voice changer to hide your identity. Spend off-hour duties alone in private quarters. Do this job for about a month with 5 other people. Have fun, Lamau. Now that you got an idea that this stuff is, as a matter of fact, serious business, you try to figure out what's going on with these 7 miniature entries stealing the spotlight. Apparently, these girls are from some strange little cult called the Children of the Scarlet King, and were all pregnant upon being taken to the SCP Foundation. That's right, these girls upon being taken into a top-secret organization were not held captive by the demon gods, they were members of a cult. Probably an incredibly unreliable source of information. No doubt about it, this is blowing your mind right now. Like, WHAT, it's a cult, kill me please. I mean, all cults that I know of are run by either greedy people or lunatic fringes, so wouldn't you think it'd be kind of a waste of time to pay any attention to what that stupid, dumb Scarlet King cult has to say? And now it's time for the darkest status report of all time. This report is brought to you by hidden text in the documentation you can find with Inspect Element. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the documentation has... Girl number 1,
dead.
She died giving birth to a monstrous SCP known as which unleashed a disaster that caused quite a bit of casualties. Girl number 2,
dead.
She died because the good doctor was like, ah shit, you better watch out, I'm gonna do the morally complex abortion, baby. But as a matter of fact, that didn't actually work, and the good doctor turned out to be nothing but an utter fool, and another terrible disaster occurred. Girl number 3,
dead.
She was all like,
I ain't having any of this horrifying surgery shit.
So she stabbed herself with a knife and died, causing another terrible disaster. I could just sum this entire situation up in 3 words. Death by Glamour. That is the edgiest and worst joke I have ever told in my entire life, and I will not do that again. Girl number 4.
Dead.
This one's kind of weird. The document says she was given a pill that cures all diseases, which resulted in a successful birth, but still another disaster to occur. However, the secret text insinuates that the girl stabbed herself in the heart sometime during the birthing process. Perhaps she gave birth to that mask that takes over people's minds and then kills them once they're done with them. Yeah, something simple like that. Girl number 5.
Still dead.
The experiment lads absolutely frickin' botched the frickin' 110 Montauk procedure like the incompetent frickin' people they are. Oh yeah, 110 Montauk we'll be getting to a little later. Girl number 6.
Dead.
Wow, this one's pretty interesting. Some random dude started getting PTSD from all the experiments he's been doing, so he thought it would be a good idea to rebel against the SCP Foundation and get this girl to escape. Then everything turned into a Star Wars scene and a bunch of security guards started shooting at the agent who was running along with girl number 6. Unfortunately, the rebellious agent was gunned down, along with girl number 6 on accident. There were probably a bunch of magnitude 10 earthquakes as stuff. In fact, it was so bad that the Foundation had to change the containment procedures for 110 Montauk to what it is now, which we'll get into in a tiny bit. Girl number 7, the last girl remaining alive. She's stuck in bed and can't get out of it, but it's not because she has depression, it's because people are forcing her to have depression. Also, she has to be fed through a feeding tube and is not allowed any kind of privacy whatsoever. It kinda sucks, especially when that person is pregnant at an age that could potentially be a single-digit number. Alright everybody, that is the end of the darkest status report of all time. I hope you have a wonderful day with your wife and children. So at this point in time, you may be pissed off wondering what the hell kind of experiment would cause a girl to commit suicide. An agent working for SCP to go off trying to rescue a practically bedridden girl that would die without the very treatment she's been getting, and the staff performing the procedure to be controlled with such shonen protagonist effort. Well, allow me to introduce you to the daily procedure known as 110 Montauk, one of the most dangerous procedures in the entirety of the SCP Foundation. Also, I have no idea what 110 Montauk is. There is that popular theory that says 110 Montauk is actually a bedtime story, and while the tale making of the claim does make some compelling arguments, in my opinion it's too bold of a statement to assume that some very specific parts of the documentation are misleading. So if 110 Montauk was left to one prime interpretation, I don't think that bedtime story would be the answer. Anyway, there are 2 hints to solving this mystery procedure. Hint number 1, it involves brutal. Hint number 2, it is supposed to be horrifying and dreadful so consistently that the girl has to receive amnesics every day to prevent memorizing and getting used to the experience, all to prevent the birth of another horrible disaster like the last 6 girls the stupid Foundation failed to keep alive. Yes, it's that bad, not to mention there's possibly some disturbing significance behind the 7th of the 7th bride, like maybe she gives birth to an XK class end of the world scenario or something. Oh, did I say anything about how this freakishly parallels the whole situation with SCP-2317 and how there's only one left of the 7 pillars restraining a quote-unquote dread devourer from returning to the main world, the pillars being made out of bones from the quote-unquote 7th bride? You then freak out and almost have a heart attack and cardiac arrest at the same time, because now you realize that there are clues and evidence that point to the fact that the birth of this next SCP could unleash this ginormous menace to the entire world, maybe even existence itself. Yeah, so this is the kind of stuff the 110 Montauk procedure is attempting to prevent. In the SCP multiverse, of course there isn't 100% evidence that the Scarlet King and the Dread Devourer thing are the same entity, but it's pretty damn close. Both seem to like the number 7 just a little too much to be completely different monsters, so how about I assume they're the same thing? Fascinatingly, there is this lore to the 2317 documentation that explains that allegedly thousands of years ago, an army of 10,000 mystics was able to capture and imprison this Satan clone underground in 2317's dimension. Meaning, holy crap, he can actually be beaten, but how? Well, we must delve deeper inside the mind of Scarlet King, sorry I had to make that joke, and go over this tale called Dust and Blood. So I say, it's about time I talk about the Scarlet King in a video about the Scarlet King. Once upon a time, the world was created in the eyes of an ancient Norse philosopher turned Jew. There was this guy called Karak, what's with all the H's in its name, who unlike his brothers and sisters was actually freaking smart for some reason. Due to everyone else being stupid and unrelatable, this caused him a lot of loneliness and suffering, so he decided,
you know what, fuck everything, all my imaginary homies hate everything, I'm gonna destroy everything. Oh hi brothers and sisters, mind if I consume you and grow stronger because apparently eating your own kind makes you stronger?
He then suffered a tremendous amount of pain and started hating God even more.
Damn it God, you want us to live in a world where we can't even enjoy consuming our own siblings? I hate you even more now!
Therefore, he decided to plot his revenge on God by taking down the Tree of Knowledge. Sitting atop his throne menacingly made of dead god bones, Karak gathered around all the gods left in his dark world and declared himself king of the darkness below.
That's right, darkness is my favorite thing in the world now, so I should be allowed to sit at the cool kids table and dedicate the rest of my conversations to talking smack about my mom.
He then took the name I'm not gonna frickin' say that and established a society based on telling people not to follow their dreams. The king did start a war with creation that still continues to this day, but not before meeting this hot god chick named Sana, whom he happily forced to have unprotected sex with at least 7 times, giving birth to 7 different children, whom he also had sex with.
Holy shit, those words actually came out of my mouth.
The 7 children would go on to become the original 7 brides that have nothing to do with that stupid cult, and they gave birth to 1. Family men in the worst possible way. 2. Absolute freaking barbarians. 3. A possible reason of SCP-049's pestilence curing obsession. 4. Definitely SCP-682. 5. The Harry Potter universe, but everybody's Lord Voldemort. 6. Professional fourth wall breakers, but like actual fourth wall breakers, not the ones that make a joke by looking at the camera, like real ones that can create portals through dimensions. It's a pretty big deal. 7. Oh, these kids are actually saying their mother, the 7th bride, trained them to defeat the Scarlet King, but they all died because they're still too weak.
Wow, what a lovely little family.
Officially going by the Scarlet King now, he would amass a horrifying army mostly consisting of his incest children. World after world, universe after universe, he sends all who oppose him to their bitter end and serves as some kind of embodiment of an untimely big rip. The end goal of the Scarlet King is to reach the center of the multiverse and destroy Yggdrasil. I mean the Tree of Knowledge, ending creation along with it. Alright, you may have pissed your pants by now, but I gotta address the Dread Devourer for a second because it seems like I'm likely wrong about the guy being the Scarlet King. Because based on the tale, he never lost a battle. That being said, it's plausible that the Dread Devourer could actually be one of the Scarlet King's strongest children, which makes more sense because the tale did mention that the 7th Bride attempted to fight against the army. Speaking of which, you know how the 7th Bride gave birth to actually sane kids? What if that were to apply to the 7th Bride of our dimension? Actually, there's a tale about that. It's called New Job, and it claims that due to the similarities between the real children of the Scarlet King and the cult's children of the Scarlet King, the agents stopped doing the 110 Montauk procedure at the risk of an XK class end of the world scenario, and the 7th girl finally gave birth to this orange blob known as SCP-999, which is literally the anti-SCP. Two things you really need to know about this blob monster. 1, he tickles people. 2, he's our only hope to defeating the Scarlet King. Now, you may be sitting there screaming at the monitor, "Wow, Mart, are you telling me that inferior Plato has the balls to defeat the Scarlet King? What are you, a liberal?" To which I say, SCP-999 was able to successfully tickle SCP-682 and get away with it.
He's the ultimate weapon.
All we gotta do is Hail Mary the Tickle Monster at the Scarlet King's face and get it to tickle the Scarlet King until he laughs himself to death. Oh my god, it's absolute genius. I 100% support this plan, and I'm not even joking. We're gonna see the Tickle Monster tickle the Scarlet King to death.
And it's gonna be the best thing ever to happen in this world.